What are some of those laws you know about that regulate the conduct of employer and employees? We have a lot of them, so you may wish to drop it in the comment section. Just drop your answer in the comment section. What are those laws? We have plenty of them. We have plenty of those laws that regulate employer and employee relations. So I would just love you to drop in the comment section. Yeah, drop in the comment section. Law regulates. Which other laws do we have that regulate employer and employee relations or employee and employer conducts? We have so many of them. I will be discussing just in the next 1 hour, as we always do, just 1 hour conversation, and we call it a wrap. Okay. Let's also look at the Pension Act. Yeah. Let's also look at the National Health Insurance Act, National Housing Act, Tax Laws, Compensation and Benefit Act, Employee Trade Union Act, Factory Act, Children and Women Something Act. So there are so many of them. There are so many when it has to do with the labor law compliances. There are so many of them. All right. Let's begin by saying that when it has to do with, I always say something. In fact, I learned that from one of my barrister friends. He said, one of the ways to be compliant is just to be compliant. One of the ways to be compliant is just to be compliant. I love that a lot, because there is no other way to be compliant there's no other way to be compliant than to be compliant than just be compliant. You don't have to try to maneuver. You don't have to try to cut corners, because in cutting corners you may land yourself in the public space. This our space now that is filled with the Twitter and LinkedIn generation. So when the moment you are not doing what you ought to do, you will see yourself trending. You will see yourself trending, and you wonder how you got there. Can we remember a time that Help Mom or an NGO trended? Who can remember that? Help Mom. They trended some time ago. And you would think that they learned from their mistake. Well, from what I gathered, I don't think they are as compliant as they should be. It means that there might still be another window where they are going to be dragged again, or maybe taken to court. So as HR, it's our duty. It's our duty to ensure that our organizations are compliant. It's our duty to ensure that our organizations are compliant. So before we begin, let me also give credence to the people who have given us this platform for this partnership, Society for Human Resource Professionals and Administrators of Nigeria, as well as Como Consult for this platform. Como Consult is providing the certificates for this training, while Japan, Nigeria has given us their platform to use for the recording and any other thing we want to do anyway. All right, so thank you so much. While myself, Oga HR, as you know, is the facilitator. Thank you so much for making our time to join us today. Like I've said, it is our role as HR to ensure that our organization legal people's job. It's your job. And ensuring that it becomes a thing of a culture. You align to become a thing of what? Culture, where it is now a way of life to be compliant. Yesterday I mentioned about, I don't know that yesterday, I don't know why I mentioned that anyway. I think I've forgotten that if you have a CEO that lies, it affects even the employee. The employee begin to behave like liars. The employee begin to lie. It's not just the CEO now, but also to clients. Okay. So HR also need to advise leadership on labor law implications. Most of the times, I see HR we're just talking about that's what labor law says. That's what labor law says. Yeah, that's what the labor law says. But why should we do it? Why? If we don't do it, what happens? What happens? That's what most CEO asks. If we don't do it, what happens? That's why I've said, as a HR professional, concern yourself in discussing implication, not just discussing reports. Okay? Use the compliance to talk about workforce planning. We don't know what workforce planning has to do with mapping and you know getting your talent pipeline. Relate legal compliances and workforce planning. That is how to be strategic. It is also your job to draft. It's also your job to draft. It's also your job to draft policies. And of course, we know so many other rules that we should do. That we are not even just concerned. But we're going to the overview. Let's go to the overview. Nigerian labor law draws from first the 1999 Constitution. The Nigerian Constitution is the ground law of all laws in Nigeria. Every law draws its power from the 1999 Constitution. So, if your law or if the law of your organization becomes inconsistent with the natural laws of the land, it is to that extent null and void. That is why the supreme compliance of agreement should not be your contract letter. Many of us make that mistake. We say the contract letter says this, therefore. Not all contract letters are enforceable. Not all contract letters are binding. Once there is a deviation from the grand laws of the country, definitely is going to be thrown out. So we have the Nigerian Labour Act 2004. That was the last time it was amended. But of course, the tax has always been amended because that's where the government benefits from. The Trade Union Act, Factory Act, Occupational Safety Act, Employment Related Acts, such as Pension, Compensation Act, NPR Act, and so many others. So for the organizations that regulate compliances or that has to do with compliances, we have at the we say at the top the Ministry of Labor and Employment. Yeah, it's at the top because they are the one that regulate most of these bodies. We have the PENCOM that talk about how much we should deduct, how we should deduct. We have the NSITF, Nigerian Social Insurance Trust Fund, that manages injuries of employees, death. We have the National Health Insurance Authority Act. We have the ITF. We have the FIRS. We have the state IRS and other ones that may not be too pronounced. Even the union mind and there is Suwon, Sewon, if you are in the I know there are so many of them like that. There are so many of them. So these are some of them. So let's do something. Let's do something quick. If your organization complies with all that has been written here, all that I've written, type all in the chat room. If your organization complies with some, type some in the chat room. If your organization complies with all, type all in the chat room. If your organization complies with some, type some in the chat room. Let's go. Let's go. Company stands for. This is the company's position on this. Okay, Obafemi and says some. All right. Why the HR policy becomes important is because there are a lot of gaps in the employment law. So we use to fill up those lacunas, we have to create contract letters, we have to create our internal policies. Sometimes because the labor law or the particular law you see that you can add. You are not allowed to remove, but you can add. All right. So how do we know that an HR policy is effective? One, you have to be compliant with labor law, 1999 constitution. It can't be repugnant to what is called natural justice. What is repugnant to natural justice? It is to that extent null and void. Meanwhile, if you can also get this lecture on YouTube, it's also being streamed live on YouTube. So you just go and type Society for Human Resource Professionals and Administrators of Nigeria. Society for Human Resource Professionals and Entrepreneurs of Nigeria on YouTube, and you can always see the video and other previous videos that are there. Then it should be clear, it should be simple. When a lawyer, I was looking at a handbook. I work in a consulting firm. I was looking at a handbook that was drafted by one of my clients whose HR is a lawyer. I could easily tell, even for me, HR, it was too complex. And I said, how do you want people to understand this? I saw another one recently again. My client drafted a handbook for them, and we give them When it is perceived that a policy is a witch hunting policy, I bet you they will fight it tooth and nail to ensure that that policy does not stand. So your policy has to be fair. Your policy has to be honest. Your policy has to be open. Your policy needs to be just. Your policy don't need to target anybody. Now, what are the characteristics? How do we see? How do we make? How do we draft policy? What are the things that should be seen in HR policy? Policy. We need to see an introduction and purpose, explaining why the policy exists and how it should be used. Who the policy? Yeah. There you also have the scope. Who does this policy address? Why this policy is important? Has there been previous policy like this before? Or a similar policy? Does it exist? What is the closest policy to this that exists? If a handbook, like the major policy of the organization, they wish to have the organizational history, the vision, the mission, and the core values. You have the general employment policy such as recruitment, probation, where it is an employee handbook, for instance. Then you talk about compensation and benefits, your work rules, code of conduct, such as health and safety, performance, promotion, how you settle grievance. Policy should have an approval page where both the person that drafted it, both the CEO, both the MD, both the legal, everybody that needs to sign should sign. That policy becomes binding. So we could have various, we're going to have various sections. Very, I think one of the recent policies I saw, when I saw that of Dangote, very robust, very big, very detailed. You know, that's one of the part of the few policies I've seen recently that is detailed to the teeth. When you want to form policy, what do you do? I have noticed when most HR join organization, they want to show that they want to justify their salary. So either they begin to form new policies or they begin to cancel the one that's existing, begin to change. You may not need to change when it doesn't need any change in it. You may not need to change any policy. Is there a knowledge gap? Is there a process issue? And you do this by asking questions. Ask questions. Meet with HODs, meet with line managers, meet with team leads, meet with staff, meet with those on the shop floor, meet with operation, meet with field staff. Sometimes we HR just stay and draft policy without asking if we need this policy, if the people who are just saying need this policy, if this policy even needed. For one of my mentees last year, I went through this mentorship and she came back. She said, "Okay, I think we were having this class." She said that she got the policy and the MD refused to approve it. That all the MD was talking is profits, 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 profits. I said, "Yes, that's correct. She's very correct." But I'm talking about, but I'm not do tell about policy. I said, "Yes, your policy must not hamper profits.
Your policy is meant to support what is already happening. Your policy is meant to ensure that profits happen. So if your policy is not creating a bottleneck, instead of reducing bottleneck, reducing cost, or then there is a problem. Then you do your research. That will necessarily do your research as well. I see people in I know at least I belong to more than 10 WhatsApp groups, HR core WhatsApp groups as far as Nigeria is concerned, and maybe up to 5 when it comes to international WhatsApp group. And people will just come and be like, um, please, who give me policy on this? And I'll be like, no, this is not. I understand the place of benchmarking, but we don't. Most times, what I'm saying that most of us don't do it from the perspective of benchmark. We're looking from the perspective of want to just copy and paste, and it becomes harmful to our organization. It becomes harmful because you can't just take a policy. It's just like me going to take a policy from Lagos and to implement in Adamawa. It won't work. Only work because I may not have put in consideration the Adamawa factor or the Lagos factor. A classic example is policy on menstrual leave, for instance. A colleague of mine wanted to try it in one of the northern states. I don't want to mention the name. It didn't work. It's not being utilized. Even when he pushed it and took it through their throat. Nobody wants to. Do you know why? There. It's not a culture that makes it okay to the religion and the culture does not make it okay to be like when a woman is saying her monthly flow, she announced, oh, I'm saying monthly flow, so I'm taking my leave. No, the culture does not allow that. The religion does not give that open check to them. But in a place like Lagos, it's a normal thing. Ah, my whatever leave you call it in Lagos, monthly flow leave is next week. It's somewhere around Wednesday or Tuesday. So everybody knows in the office that oh that Tuesday is her first day and she's not at work. Who can relate with this? Who can relate? Let me see your comment in the chat room. Then you proceed to drafting the policy. Let me see your comment in the chat room. Let's proceed to drafting of the policy. Draft the policy proper. Get it to be vetted by various departments. Any department you've mentioned, ensure that they have an input there. Get approval and sign off. Let me hear your contribution on this. Let me hear first-hand experience on this. I would love to hear your first-hand experience. Let me get your first-hand experience on this. Yes, you can unmute yourself and speak. You can unmute yourself and speak. I will be glad to hear from you. Let me hear your perspective on this, on forming of how you went about forming a policy in your organization. Let me hear how you went about it. This is the book one. I know that we can also have the one that is not a book one, the one that the field experience. So feel free to unmute your mic.
Okay. So I don't believe we don't have. So let's what we're saying that we should proceed, right? That's beautiful. The Nigerian labor laws, the Labor Act. We're going to pick some few places and we continue. If we decide to analyze Nigerian labor law from beginning to the end, I don't think this, in fact, a week would not be enough for us because I know we'll have so much to say. We're talking to deal on the key provision of that law. Who can tell me why do you think Nigerian labor law have not been amended since 2004? Is there any reason for that? Honestly, I don't know. So, not like asking, but I want to hear from you. I honestly don't know. So, maybe somebody has a superior answer, superior argument. I would love to hear. I would love to hear. I would love to hear anyone that has reason why Nigerian labor law has not been amended. The key provision in the Nigerian labor law talks about employment contract that the employer must provide a written statement of terms of contract within 3 months of hiring. Within 3 months of hiring. Organizations don't. And I always tell, please, no matter how urgent it is, never resume a job that they are not giving you at least a month before you resume. Yes. You're not getting it. Please, I beg you don't resume. The Employment Act, Labor Act talk about deduction, how deduction should be made, and how deduction should not be made. Talk about working hours. What is the working hours? Can someone tell me? Let's see those that have read their labor.
Eight hours a day.
Okay. Can you drop the comment in the just drop the comment in the chat room? What is the standard hours we should work? Then the labor law talks about leave entitlement, termination, redundancy, and again, what does it talk about termination and redundancy? How do you let people go? What strategy should you exit people? Who leaves first? That will give us a clue to what I'm asking about. All right, we proceed. While I wait for your questions, your answers in the chat room. In the employment contract, it's also clear what should be in the employment contract. Okay, I think I am seeing something. Is that what is in the labor law 8 to 4 p.m.? I doubt if that is what is in the labor law. I doubt if it's 8 hours that is written the way we are written it, the way we have written it. 8 hours a month, a week, or what? What in the labor law says 40 hours a week, all right? Please, HR, let us get our labor law handy. Let's know it. And that is why I respect those who are in the legal field where they are always been keeping up to date. Why are we HRs not keeping up to date? Why are we HRs not keeping up to date? 40 hours per week. That's right. Mandatory contracts, content. So what should be there? Your name, address of the employer and that of the worker, job title, description, start date, duration, what kind of contract it is, hours of work, wages and mode of payment, holidays, sick leave, notice period, discipline, and failure to provide for may lead to this. Yes. So when you're not providing contracts of employment, most times you are guided by the Labor Act. Okay? Minimum Wage Act, of course, we have that now that is in existence. The minimum wage today is 70,000 naira per month. Okay. Deductions should be made, pension, equal pay for equal work principle applies without discrimination of gender. So if a lady is doing the same work as a man, the same cadre, in the same qualification, you can say, oh, because it's a lady, therefore let's pay her this. Oh, because this guy is single, and let's pay those who are married more. uh, all right. Labor law is quite interesting and very straightforward. The labor law, in over time, let me also state it very clearly that the labor law do not provide how overtime should be calculated. It was not very specific about how overtime, but it was clear that overtime should be paid when there is an extra work. All right. This is just a model that most organizations use. Rest periods, of course, very clear on that. Have their own way of work and other things they wish to add. Okay. That you are not allowed to remove, but you can add. But I can see today, like myself, I'm entitled to 20 days leave in a year. Okay. But when you are now doing that 20 days in a year, for instance, most likely you might not have up to 12 days sick leave as well. Maternity leave, you have 6 weeks before delivery and 6 weeks after birth, but of course we don't see that happen. We see them going to maternity maybe 2 weeks before to their delivery so they can spend a lot of time with their kids. While paternity leave has how many? Maternity has 7 days. 7 days. Ensure your staff go on leave. Ensure. I feel very uncomfortable when I see even staff saying don't go on leave. I feel very uncomfortable. Because of the experience I've had, experience I've had in the past, it always gives me an inclination that maybe this staff is hiding something or this staff is feeling like it's not good enough to go and rest. Sometimes people are scared to go on leave because they feel like if they go on leave, they will now know that the labor law provides when it comes to termination. But you can amend to suit purpose either 2 weeks, 1 month, as most organization does. But you see, if you are saying the employee should give you 2 weeks notice, you should also the employer should also be ready to give or even stole and the thing was recovered 100% from the person. If the employer is terminating, does that person should that person be paid anything at all? You can mute your mic.
I'm waiting for my agile HRs. I can see very big HRs in the building. Let me hear your voices. Let me feel your pulse. I will love to hear from you. Mind you, I want to appreciate Secretariat for allowing that this class should be posted open for today for because this is a paid class ordinarily. This is a paid class. So thank you, Secretariat, for giving this opportunities for others to join freely. It has been subsidized by our sponsor, Como Consult and Japan. They have subsidized this learning for today. Yes, the learning has been subsidized. So if you are here because the learning for today was subsidized. All right. Says, so it's asking a question in the chat room saying, what can you do where and there's so the closing question also which feels influence on the rest of the employees. Okay, okay. I will let me get a go ahead from Secretariat first if to answer the question, because like I said, the class is mainly for people who have paid. So I don't know if, because this seems like more of a specific question to your organization, not a generic question on this particular lecture. That is why clear on that. Labor law is very clear on that. What does the labor law say? Last in, first out. Last in, first out. All right. That we in Magazine we applied that. Well, where I used to work before, we applied that during the COVID period. We also have the Child Labor Act, where we talk about forced labor, how labor should not be forced. Yes, that's also a conversation that is also in our
I won't go inside.
Yeah, Mama, come take.
How much was it?
2,150.
After I don't promote. Because this one is sweet. This one is sweet. You are sweet. I have sweet, but this one is sugar. And the sugar. No, I just go shop. I don't know how much is that bread. That's why I dey call you. If you want buy, I don't know how much it is. Okay. Okay, I don't hear you. Okay. I just think I talk for that place. Hmm? 6,000. What about press the okay. Press the okay. What do you want now? Hey, oh yeah now. You just stand there. And what? Hey, dem pay money na make you dey go. Just stand there. Everybody wey come don give you go.
The only slicing bucket bread.
No be on slice be this. You don't want this one again. Until you bust my water.
Anyway,
Let's get the start. No, me, I no get time. Make I answer you now. Because if you go now, only me go pay here. Oh, yeah.